All right, Jesse Valcich, welcome. Thanks for coming in this morning on short notice.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I've known you since you were like literally a baby.
It's true. I think you and my dad met the year I was born.
I think the year that
right?
Yeah, you were born in 2000.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I think your mom was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I met your dad in 2000. So I haven't seen. So the reason why you're here is I haven't seen you in 4 years.
Yeah.
Which in like older adult life, 4 years is like, okay, the guy's got a little bit more gray hair, looks a little rougher. With people that are under, let's say 30, it can be a lifetime. So it's been like 4 years. So I haven't seen you the entire time you've been in high school.
Yeah.
So now you're out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And this weekend I was hanging out with my family. We had dinner outside. The weather here in Orlando is really nice in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
And I just flipped open my phone, checked Facebook, and the first thing that popped up was your Facebook post. And it was like, hey, I'm in front of my bitch and switcher.
Yeah, I have my sweet setup for my bitch and switching. Yeah.
Yeah, and what were you switching?
I was switching a few cameras on a next stage for a fashion show at the Hyatt Regency.
So on an analog way next stage.
Analog way next stage.
So when I saw that, it literally froze me in my tracks, and I was like, I have to figure out if this is a joke, because I didn't know what you were up to. Like, because I didn't start doing any V1 work until I was like 22 or 23. Mm-hmm. So you're already like 4 years ahead of where I was. I was still kind of sweeping in the warehouse at when I was 18. Yeah. I just actually moved to Orlando, and that's where I met your dad, was working at a company called Pro Stage, mm-hmm. and I was working in the warehouse, and that's kind of where I started learning. So you're way ahead of the curve. So how long have you been kind of doing this?
I've been doing video work for about a month and a half now. Since I've been working full time with Encore, I've been pretty much molding my video skills and that sort of thing, working with Analog Ways, Pulse, and Next Stage switchers. But before that, I did lighting in high school. So I've been working with things in the industry for a while, and I had my kind of growth into being productive and that sort of thing, but I didn't start getting into video till only a month ago, so I'm still pretty fresh to it as well.
And you went to Dr. Phillips, right?
Yeah, Dr. Phillips.
And you've got two brothers as well. You got one older brother and one younger brother.
Yep.
Your brother's also in this industry too, right?
Yep, older brother Jephthah, he's also in the industry. He's trying to work his way into being a camera operator like mom.
So that, I haven't been to your high school, but I've seen pictures of it. I think it's like kind of an arts magnet school.
Yeah.
They have obviously there's been some famous people that have gone to that school and gone through their arts class.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you went through the arts side of the school. Can
Yeah,
you kind of pick a lane? Like you can do theater or you could do production, or can you do both?
Yeah, it's pretty cool because they have like the magnet program. So there's the theater magnet there, the TV magnet there, which is what Jephthah did, the band magnet, the art magnet. So you can kind of pick a lane and then still take classes in each of the other magnets. So I took the theater route. I went in theater. And because of that, I had the opportunity to both act and do tech work. So I did a lot of lighting in high school, and I got enough to have like an audio base. So I know enough about audio that now that I'm in the business, I can set up mixers and know how all that works. But I still was able to take classes, like I was able to take a film class, and I was able to take a music production class and work with audio software and that sort of thing as well.
Okay, so my mission, my professional mission kind of moving forward is I want to stop asking people how they got into this industry, which to me is one of the most fulfilling professions you can be in. It pays really well. It gives you freedom. Mm-hmm. You can go full-time. You can go freelance. Your dad, who I know very well, I know he was working for a company that downsized. He got laid off. And when I talked to him, he said within 2 days I was booked for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So it gives you flexibility when things are changing and you need to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
You can change very quickly. If you're doing audio and you want to change into video, you can do it. If you want to learn LED, you can do it. So you can very quickly change from profession to profession. It gives you full flexibility.
Yeah.
The thing that I always struggle with is, if your parents weren't in this industry and you only went to the high school that you went to, is there at any point where they sit down the kids and say, hey, here's some different industries you can go into. Here's television, here's film production. Both are great, but very difficult to really get to the top level. I feel like those are always talked about. The thing that always gets left behind is live event production.
Yeah. If
your parents weren't into it, do you think it would have ever been something that was brought to your attention? Because I feel like everybody's falling into this industry by accident, which is kind of crazy. And I think it's something that needs to change.
I don't think live event production was ever really talked about in my high school in the theater department. I believe in the TV production part, they teach you enough and guide you towards going to schools like Full Sail and that sort of thing. And then I know Full Sail will often send people out into this industry, but not a lot of high schools will put live event on the table for you as a recommendation of what to go into or train you for that sort of thing or anything like that.
Do you think that's kind of strange? Like, would you say that it would be, viable for someone to come in and say, because I think what's happening with our industry is it has to be reframed, because it used to be talked about as AV, and AV was kind of seen as like, okay, here's the person that wheels in the projector into class. Yeah. And back in my day, it was the 16 millimeter. That was the AV person. That was the person in the quote unquote AV club. Mm-hmm. So AV was kind of looked at as just that type of work. But I never like to use the word AV. I like to use the words live event production, mm-hmm. because live event production is exciting. It's dynamic. You can do anything from concert touring to corporate shows to doing AV, audiovisual, live events in hotels. Mm-hmm. Obviously, in Orlando, we have a lot of large hotels that aren't just doing meetings. They're doing full-size shows.
Yeah, a lot of corporate general sessions going on in Orlando.
So if there were people coming into the high schools and saying, hey, this is an arts magnet school, you guys are in the TV class, here's what live events is, maybe you should take a look at that. Do you think there'd be more than a couple kids that would be interested in this?
Oh, definitely. I knew quite a few people on the tech side of theater who have strong audio backgrounds, and then they went into either working for, like, one of my friends ended up being the audio guy for his church, but never live event production. But there would definitely be more than a couple of people interested.
Well, and there are kind of like three different gateways. So obviously, if you can do this in high school, you get kind of a head start, especially if you go to a nice school like Dr. Phillips, where they literally have all the tools at your disposal. Yeah. Then you can get into live event production or even television and kind of know, how things work. But the three main gateways are working in a warehouse, at a staging company. Yeah. Working at a church, because a lot of churches do full production, so you're learning both production and kind of live events all rolled into one. And then the third one is, I think a major one is hotel AV. Mm-hmm. So you're working for Encore at the Peabody. Right? Is that correct?
Hyatt Regency now.
Sorry, that's right. So I'm dating myself right now.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, the Peabody.
No worries. Yeah.
So great hotel, mm-hmm. But what's interesting about that is that hotel is they have an AV department, but that hotel, like many in Orlando, is really large, and they're built for not just doing meetings, but doing large shows. Mm-hmm. And being in-house gives you the same thing that you might get in a church and something that you might get in a warehouse, which is you have to learn how to work under pressure, time management, people making changes last minute. You might one day go from setting 20 breakout rooms to the next day being thrown into an ascender, or the next day having to switch cameras. And in a way, it's kind of a school. Yeah. So after I got laid off after 9/11, I was working with your dad. That's right when the Gaylord was opening up. And the Gaylord, PSAV had moved into the Gaylord, and it was the first time that they were going to actually start a events division. And I was the 22-year-old or 21-year-old, actually I might have been 21-year-old video engineer who they hired. But, and I didn't know a lot when I started the job, but I had passion, I wanted to work hard, and I knew that this was the industry that I wanted to be in. But I was allowed, in that setting, you can make your mistakes, you can learn, you can ask questions, and you're always being kind of thrown into the trenches. So by the time that you transition maybe into a freelance career, or maybe you start traveling and becoming a traveling technician, you've got a lot of that time under your belt. Because one thing that we can't teach, like we can teach you the gear, but we can't teach you what it's like to work under a high stress, high pressure, ever-changing environment. So I know you haven't been in this industry for very long, but have you noticed that, like in the hotel setting, you're kind of being thrown into a lot of different scenarios?
Yeah, we'll have pop-ups that literally come out of nowhere, and we'll have to throw together a projection package, or sometimes we even, one of my first days doing evaluation at Encore, we actually had to do an entire audio setup for a GS in less than 20 minutes. So I think hotel AV is a great way to learn that discipline and that get that exposure for the industry that you couldn't necessarily get from just taking classes in it.
Well, the other important thing is not everybody knows what they want to do professionally. So so there's a lot of different disciplines in the world of live events that could go from lighting, audio, video, and just within video, you have media servers and projection and LED and switching and all sorts of disciplines. So I think when you're working for a hotel, you kind of get flight time on all those products. So then when you're kind of moving on in your career or kind of figuring out what you want to specialize in, you can kind of say, you know what, I was most excited when I was switching cameras, or I really like doing projection, or I really like doing LED, and then that can be a focus. The good thing is you can be good at multiple different disciplines, and that gives you a lot of flexibility when you're a freelancer or when you go full time.
Yeah.
So what are you kind of gravitating to? Like, what do you enjoy?
Right now, what I enjoy doing most right now, I actually do really get a lot of satisfaction out of switching. I like doing that. I like clicking the button and then seeing everything working out perfectly, having a smooth show. I really enjoy switching, but I do want to have more dynamics in my video background. I'm excited because I'm actually taking Evolve courses in January, I believe on either projection or I think basic video, which will include projection. But I'm trying to diversify my video background. That way, when I do start freelancing in later life, as I'm pursuing acting, I'll have a lot of strong foundations and a lot of flexibility in what I'm able to do.
Well, this is also nice too because it could be a first career or it could be a secondary career. Mm-hmm. So if you're passionate about acting and that's what you want to do, I guess the key is just to figure out how to fit that into your schedule so you can continue to do it. So where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years? Do you want to stay in Orlando, move to California where there's more opportunities to act, kind of balance the two careers? Like acting obviously is what you're most passionate about, correct?
Yeah. I don't want to give away the secret, but Atlanta right now is booming in the film industry. So in the next couple of years, maybe a little more, Jepta and I are going to move.
Your brother?
Yeah, yep. My older brother Jepta and I are gonna move to Atlanta. Potentially the whole family is, but definitely Jepta and I are gonna move and start doing freelance there. That's why we're both building our AV background now. That way, when we're there, we'll have stability because we'll be able to work a lot less than, let's say, the average person who pursues acting, who's waiting tables like 9 to 5 or waiting tables constantly, and a lot of their time they sacrifice to making money. Whereas with an AV background, freelancing, a lot more free time opens up because the industry does pay a lot better than the average job does, especially if you're good at it and you have a lot of experience in it.
Well, and you have a big advantage. Like obviously, hindsight's 20/20 for me. So if I could go back to being 18, I'd do a lot of things differently. But one thing that's amazing about a career in this industry is even if there were no shows in Atlanta, which there's a lot of shows in Atlanta, there's a lot of production companies in Atlanta. Obviously, there's a lot of acting opportunities in Atlanta. That's kind of the southern Hollywood.
Yeah.
Film, television. It's insane there right now. But at the end of the day, if you weren't interested in acting, the most important thing as a freelancer is being by a good airport.
Oh, yeah.
So being by ATL Airport is great. And if you decide later that, hey, I want to live in Colorado because I really like skiing or I really like snowboarding, well, the Denver airport is really great. So, the idea is just be by someplace that's flexible. I know you guys like Vermont, and Vermont's a great state,
Oh, yeah.
but that airport shuts down a lot.
Yeah.
You have snowy days. There's only a couple flights out a day that go to certain cities. And I think Atlanta is my favorite airport only because you can go anywhere in the world direct.
Yeah.
So as a freelancer, you can be direct to almost any gig. And when you're a freelancer, time is money. And the more that you can be home and the less you're traveling and the less you're in hotel rooms, the better.
Yeah.
So what do you see yourself doing when you get to Atlanta? Taking gigs, doing some auditioning, kind of balancing that out. Like, is your brother also interested in acting as well?
Jepta wants to be on the other end of film production. His main goal is to be a director, but right now he's been working on his cinematography reel and developing his skills in that to get on as what's the word? Get on a first AC. That's the word I'm looking for. To start being assistant camera when we go and start putting his skills towards that and working his way up to cinematographer, then hopefully one day director. We kind of take a lot of inspiration from Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson. because they went to college together. They started making films together, and then they both kind of accelerated their careers together. Jepta and I want to do that a lot in the same way. Him as the director, myself as the actor.
Now, what about your younger brother? Do you think you'll make this a trio in a few years?
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that. But he's a Renaissance man. He'll come in. He'll go
Renaissance man, Renaissance boy. How old is
Renaissance
he?
boy.
He's a Renaissance.
Yeah,
he's almost a 16.
He's a Renaissance lad.
Oh my God.
He'll come in. He came in one day. He was like, I know what I want to do for money while I'm in high school. I'm going to start building longboards. And we were like, okay. And then 2 weeks later, he had 2 longboards and he had like a logo developed. So we don't know where he's going to end up being. He's been pursuing music a lot more recently, and he's trying to put together a band. But he also has talked about doing soundtracking and composing for films and stuff. And then that would slide in perfectly with Jepta's and I's plan. We're really trying to build like a strong like Valcich crew.
Well, that's good. And you know, at the end of the day, this, not to tout this industry too much, but it's something that can be you can fall back on it. So if everybody wants to get into it, you keep the trade. You know, I think the key is one thing I have to realize too is, like, for me, it's my passion. So I couldn't imagine doing anything else. But if acting is your passion, or for your brother, if getting into being a cinematographer is his passion, then it's about kind of figuring out how to balance it out. How do I do enough gigs to pay my bills, but then also I'm not losing sight of acting or getting into film production, because those are also really good professions to be into. But sometimes with live events is it starts paying the bills. Once you get good, what you'll find, especially on the freelancer side, is there's never a shortage of work. So it's really easy to kind of be pulled into it, and then that's the profession, and that's great. But if that's not what you want, then you have to figure out how to kind of balance that out.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be disappointed if I did fall into AV, because I do really enjoy switching and doing this work. It's not gratifying. It's satisfying to do this work, and I'd love to do it for the rest of my life as well. Like if acting doesn't work out, which, not that I'm not an optimist, but a lot of times acting is a hard industry to get into. But if it doesn't work out, I'm just as happy pursuing AV.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think you'll stick in kind of more on the video side? Is that where your passions are lying for the most part?
Right now, yeah. Also, we're trying to build like an AV crew, you know. So since my mom
like
and
the
Jepta
wrecking
are camerads, we come in, we just book a gig. The 5 of us would be great.
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing I'd recommend, you know, especially if you freelance in a couple years, is there's a big demand for LED. Because LED has, you know, it's been projection for a long time, and then LED started kind of popping up. And it kind of had its niche in the market, and now it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's taken over, but it's definitely getting more and more of the market share for bigger shows. And that's the part, you know, if anybody out there wants to get into this industry, LED is by far the part of the industry that needs technicians the most. It needs good people with the right kind of work ethic, because that's the one thing that's the most important. You don't have to be super technical, but you have to know that, like, it's not a 9-to-5 job. You might think that you're going to go home at 5, but then something goes wrong and you don't go to bed till 10.
Yep.
There's always these curveballs that are coming at you. But that's one profession I think we really have a big deficiency for. So something that you might want to look into the future, and your dad could probably show you, you know, kind of teach you show you the ropes on that. Yeah. But I like the idea of maybe someday the whole family's on a show together. That'd be great. That'd be kind of cool. Just one invoice, one check, you know.
Oh, that'd be nice. Yeah.
So, well, cool. So, moving forward, then, your friends, obviously. Do you have some of your friends that are going to college? Some that are getting into trades? Are there some friends that you are kind of thinking about pulling into this industry?
Most of the,
because we need more, so bring them in.
Most of the people from my graduating class in the theater department have gone to college, and there's only like a couple of us still here, but the couple of us that are here, they could totally get a job in the industry. They have audio backgrounds, they have a lot of discipline, because the one thing the Magnet teaches more than anything is versatility and control of when there are curveballs thrown at you. Like you're saying, in this industry, a lot of curveballs get thrown. I feel like my friends could totally take it and make their own in the industry.
Okay, and one thing, when I first moved from Michigan to here, obviously when you're in school, it's always, you do high school, you go into college, and I decided, hey, this is where I'm going to end up anyway. I'm just going to bypass college, and I don't recommend that. Like, that's not what I'm promoting. Like, hey,
Yeah.
don't do higher education. But I made a deal with myself, and the deal was, look, your friends are going away for 4 years, and you're going to go to Florida for 4 years. So the deal I made with myself was, well, at the end of those 4 years, I can't be a sandwich artist. I have to actually have pursued my interest and gotten to a good place in the industry. And going in with that mindset, I knew what I had. I know when these guys are graduating. I know how much time I have, and now I need to get to work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how my mindset was.
Same here. Same here. I decided pretty early on that I wasn't going to go to college, not because there's anything wrong with college, but because what I want to do with my life, both AV and acting, those are both hands-on crafts. Like as much as you could learn from courses in AV, going and doing the AV and dealing with the pressures of it on site can be equally as instructive and constructive. So.
Okay, so I think what I'm learning here from talking to you, because I'm not used to talking to people who are 18 that are brand new to this industry, is I think what I really want to do is figure out how to talk to high schools and promote. I think one thing we could do here is promote the live events industry and say, look, guys, if you're interested in film and television, here's another route. And by the way, if you live in Orlando, this is kind of like this is the place.
Oh yeah,
or if you live in
Orlando.
Vegas, this is kind of where all of it happens. It's like if you want to do live event production, this is Hollywood. This is where you want to be. But I think as an industry, we're not getting the message across. We're not talking to anybody. And we're basically saying we'll just wait for people to fall out of the sky. And when the industry was a lot smaller, that was a little bit easier. But now that it's gotten so large, we're just not getting enough good people in.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to talk to you today, kind of get your perspective. It sounds like that might be kind of a good thing, maybe talking to the schools.
Yeah.
So let's say someone was thinking about getting into this industry that was in high school. What advice would you give to them? I mean, obviously you haven't been doing it that long, but you've got a little experience. What would be some takeaways?
I think the number one thing is when you start doing gigs, you gotta get in the mindset of you're there to be the best that you can be. Like when I was in the evaluation process for the job I have now, and when I was on the freelance gigs, my goal was to make myself indisposable. Not in a selfish way, in that every other tech was less than me or anything like that. But you really want to hone in on your skills as best you can and make yourself a valuable asset, because then that's how you break into the industry best. That's how you become a freelancer with constant flow of gigs, and that's how you become dependable for if you're on a team like I am. Definitely go in and give it 110%.
Well, yeah, because one of the most important things is show up on time. And be prepared. Have the tools that you need to do the job.
Yeah.
Be someone that others can depend on. Have a plan when you show up in the room. Don't, like, if you guys are loading in a show, don't just show up. You want to be the guy that's like, okay, I have the plan, and this is what we're going to do for the first hour, the second hour. This is where we need to be by lunch. This is where we need to be by dinner.
Yep.
So that everybody's kind of relying on you, and that's where you start to see the separation between people. And I hate to say it, but there's a lot of people in this industry that come in and they stagnate and they stay in one role, and they never progress because they never really. I don't know if it's just a lack of drive or maybe a little bit of a lack of work ethic to kind of come in and be prepared, be the person that others can count on, so that you can then accelerate, because it happens very quickly. I used to think it would take a really long time to advance, but really it can happen quickly if you have the right attitude. Now, I don't want to tell anybody to rush through it, because ultimately the thing that you can't teach is how to handle stress.
Yeah.
And be good under pressure. Those are the things that only come with time. But if you have the other things as part of that, then it's a really big recipe for success. And you're coming into an industry that is extremely positive and has a lot of growth potential. So I commend you on getting in at a ripe young age of 18. You might be the youngest person that I know that's doing this professionally.
Maybe.
So keep it up. Keep working hard, and keep training. I think that's also important too.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite piece of gear so far?
Favorite piece of gear so far? Let me think for a second. I'm gonna have to go with the, just because I've been using it so frequently. The Next Stage, the Analog Way Next Stage. It's because of
Shout
that.
out to Analog Way.
Yeah, shout out to
we love
Analog Way. We're not sponsored, I don't think.
No,
but,
no sponsor. Well, we are now.
sponsors. We are now. So thank you, Analog Way.
And it looks cool when the lights are down, right? It's kind of blinks and it's kind of
yeah.
green and it's
Yeah.
And are you using it with the laptop or the controller?
Yeah, the laptop control is awesome. It makes it super easy. That's another piece of advice to incoming freelancers: figure out the easiest way to do things, not because you're lazy, but because the easiest way to do things sometimes can be the most efficient way to do things.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in. Congratulations on what I think is going to be a long and illustrious career.
Thank you very much,
All right.
and thank you for having me.
All right, Jesse Valcich, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Tyler Mayne.